One of the 5 red heifers that was imported from Texas in September of 2022 was sacrificed in Israel on July 1st, 2025. But for those of us that have been monitoring the developments of this closely, it isn't exactly what we were expecting. For those that aren't quite up to date on this Jewish prophecy, which many believe will usher in the last days, and it is one of the final steps before building the third temple in Jerusalem, which most Christian religions believe is a requirement prior to the second coming, all while Jews believe it is a requirement for the Messiah to come. Jewish tradition is that those building the temple must first be cleansed using the ash from the sacrifice of a perfect red heifer. There are several qualifications that make perfect red heifers difficult to find, and if they get too old, they begin growing white hairs which disqualify them. They must be unblemished and unyoked, and several other things. The requirements are listed in the Bible in Numbers chapter 19. To put this into perspective, since the time of Moses, over 3,500 years ago, only 9 red heifers have been sacrificed, and the last one was prior to Christ's mortal ministry. But Jews and most Christians believe the third temple must be built on the Temple Mount. But the problem is that after the Romans destroyed the temple in 70 AD, Jews were scattered and the Muslims took control of Jerusalem in 637 AD, and soon after built the Dome of the Rock on what the Jews believe is the very site the temple was originally on. So the Jews believe the third temple needs to be built on the very spot that the Dome of the Rock is currently occupying, meaning that the Jews' most holy site in the world is unavailable to them and currently occupied by a structure that Muslims treat as their third most holy site in the world, all while many Christians believe that the Jews need to build the temple there before the second coming. To put this into perspective, 25% of the world's population is Muslim, 31.6% is Christian, and 0.2% is Jewish, meaning that this prophecy impacts more than half of the world's population in a very meaningful way. And the first step is the sacrifice of a red heifer, because it acts as a battle cry for all Jews to unite and take back the Temple Mount, destroy the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and build the third temple. So when pundits and online personalities say that a cow can cause World War III, they aren't kidding one bit. That is why people worry that the conflict in Israel right now can escalate and become Armageddon, because that is what is foretold in the Bible, and many, including myself, believe that the sacrifice of a red heifer very well may start it all. So what ramped up tensions in recent years is that in September 2022, a Texas rancher named Byron Stinson donated 5 perfect red heifers to be used for the sacrifice. Stinson is the founder of Bona Israel, meaning Build Israel, which is an interfaith organization of both Christians and Jews focused on the building of the third temple. The heifers have been kept in Shiloh, waiting for the opportunity to perform the ritual. They have been under close monitoring to ensure they remain kosher. There's always a fear that the heifers will get too old and they will begin to grow white hairs, which will disqualify them. The man who took the heifers from Stinson in Texas is Rabbi Yitzhak Mamo, who also owns a small piece of property on the Mount of Olives just east of the Temple Mount. One of the beliefs by the Jews is that the sacrifice has to be performed at the exact elevation and directly in front of where the Holy of Holies was in the original temple. Mamo's piece of land meets this qualification, and his intention has been for this 1/2 acre piece of land to be used for the red heifer sacrifice. The attacks on October 7, 2023 by Hamas was in part justified by the intention to destroy the 5 red heifers in an attempt to thwart the Jewish ritual. This is according to Abu Abideh, the military spokesman for Hamas. The attack had a death toll of 695, including 36 children. Hundreds of millions around the world have been waiting for the red heifer sacrifice. Then early this year, an announcement was made that some of the red heifers had already been disqualified due to growing white hairs. With little time remaining, many thought the ritual would happen very soon. Then on July 1st, 2025, Stinson announced that a sacrifice of one of the original 5 qualified red heifers was performed in Israel. A short video was released and it was published on Israel National News. Byron said, quote, "It was done with a Cohen, a priest, and a very qualified red heifer. It followed all of the biblical commands." Stinson was attempting to gain support that this was the long-awaited sacrifice, but remember, he qualified the statement by saying, quote, "It followed all of the biblical commands." But what it didn't do is conform to the Jewish oral tradition as well. So the Jews consider it a practice because while it did happen in Israel, it did not happen on the Mount of Olives as required in the Jewish oral tradition. Instead, it happened in Samaria. The Temple Institute shortly after also announced that all 5 red heifers had been disqualified, although Stinson claims the heifer used was still kosher. Stinson himself acknowledged, quote, "Will it be accepted by everybody? No. Will there be another one on the Mount of Olives? Probably." So if they had qualifying red heifers, why did they wait and now lose the opportunity? Why didn't they just do it at the Mount of Olives sometime over the last couple of years? While there are many Jews that protest and actively want to begin a conflict over the Temple Mount, many believe the government does not want to escalate to that level of conflict at this time. So what stops the Jews at the Temple Institute from just performing the ritual without permission from the government? Well, the Israeli government is one of the largest donors to the Temple Institute, which allows them significant control over the actions taken by the group. Remember, for the Jews, this isn't just about the red heifer sacrifice, but rather what it leads to. They believe the ash is used to purify the priests that can begin to build the temple, for which they already have the plans drawn up. What you are seeing on the screen is a rough sketch of the size of the third temple complex on the Temple Mount, which, as you can see, would require the removal of the Dome of the Rock, which would cause an international conflict, the likes of which we probably have never seen. So as of right now, the original 5 qualifying red heifers from Texas have been disqualified, but one of them was used for a practice sacrifice in Samaria, and some evangelical Christians believe it was legitimate. While the Temple Institute states that all 5 were disqualified, Stinson believes that the one sacrificed was kosher at the time of the ritual, but the sacrifice did not meet the Jewish requirements, and therefore an official ritual sacrifice of a red heifer will still need to happen on the Mount of Olives in the future, after a new qualifying red heifer has been found, which is likely years away at the earliest. Thanks for watching. Hey, before you go, I'd like to invite you to be part of Momentum 2026, a cruise with Go and Do Travel. I'll be there with many friends, including Bruce Porter, and many other well-known LDS speakers and entertainers. These cruises offer opportunities to connect with like-minded individuals and learn from some of the most amazing people out there. If you're interested, use promo code PRINCE to get $100 off.